and then a couple more ones, so I guess hi, welcome. Hi, I'm Sim. Nice to meet you. Amazing how many students we have this year.
Sign up?
Yeah.
Because usually we're outnumbered mentor to mentee, right?
Yeah.
How many students did you get this year?
We got about 200 students. Mentors, which is the opposite of last year.
That's wild.
So I really think it's you're doing. It has to be.
It's not me.
You've been spreading the word. So
yeah, that's wild. Do we have about the same amount of mentors? Has that shifted at all?
It hasn't. So it stayed. That's why we ended up doubling up quite a few. So at the event, you'll see mentors with 2 mentees. So quite a few.
Well, it's good to know just that, like the mentors that you haven't gone down.
Yes. Yeah. There's been a couple here and there on both sides, but it hasn't been too bad. We've been trying to be a bit strict. It's working. People seem to be like, oh, okay.
Well, we think like your level of strictness is not super strict, so I don't think that would be crazy going scare anyone off or anything.
My hair drew those. So what did you? You think of the painstaking Photoshop work?
No, it's oh, they're beautiful.
That's concocted but full of them.
That's amazing.
We wanted something more OISE.
Yeah, I use this for like all my presentations now. I'm always like, look at this beautiful graphic.
She literally wiped away the rest of the city. We were sitting together.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
Did you go to coordinate today?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
Like kind of your full someone in the word doc?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like the
We shifted it a tiny bit. Hello. Welcome.
Please have some food. We haven't met. I'm sorry, I'm Sam. Oh, nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. Welcome. Hi, we haven't. Oh, hi. I'm Sam. Nice to meet you. Hi.
I keep watching that work.
I know, right?
Okay. So you're talking about like this? No. Yes. The Word doc I originally sent, right? Okay.
That's okay. Thanks.
Not too much.
Oh,
yeah, it's the workshop. Yeah, please come in.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm Jeff. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks again. That's fine. We're also recording this, so we can send it to you afterwards. We'll be starting in about 3 minutes. If anyone needs to do like a washroom run or anything like that, a couple minutes left. Oops. Also not handy. I mean, even if he needs to come a bit later too, like it's so flexible.
Yeah.
You can start, right? Yeah.
Like,
I just got an email
Yeah.
from
Yeah, it'll be 3. Okay. Oh, did someone from BC come up here?
Yeah, yes. I can never remember his name. Yeah, he was great because I was debating whether we put the big camera on and have the room.
Yeah.
But I think that might just get complicated.
Yes. Yeah.
To have like the 2 machines and then you get lots of feedback. And,
Yeah. Okay.
But if we decide to do that, we can set it up.
Oh, it's nice they came on because I asked them just yesterday. It's pretty short notice.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe we'll get started.
Sure.
Or do you want to wait for Amy?
I'll just give them a call.
Hello, welcome. Please come in and get some food. No, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah, feel free. I'll just give them a call.
Okay. So welcome everyone. I know we're still eating, so don't worry, I'm not gonna do any interactive portion of the workshop for a little bit, give you time to eat. Hi, welcome. Yeah, please come and get some food.
Hi, come on, you made it.
Hi, Cindy.
Good to see you. Thank you for sending me.
How are you?
Oh, yeah. Good to see you. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good.
I see you.
Oh, you're doing good. There's lots of food around. Hi, are you here for the Mentee workshop? Yeah, please come in. We've got lots of food set up. So. And Cindy, are you still okay to talk around the beginning, or do you want me to move you a bit later? Oh, okay. As long as you're sure. Hello, welcome. I'm Diana Burchell.
Sorry, stairs.
We still got lots of food, so
That happened to me too. Just completely gaslighting on. I only take like 5.
Oh yeah, do we need any more
Just
chairs? Do we need more chairs? No? Okay.
We can put one here and I'll pull it.
Oh yeah, we can definitely put some chairs up here.
I'm gonna sit on this side. It's so relaxed.
Well, do you guys want to sit here? I can move over.
No, your turn. It's yours.
I don't have to. I'm not territorial about it.
But we are. You get the hot seat. That's right. We're here for moral support.
Aw, thank you.
Would you like this open?
Okay, sorry everyone online. We're just getting set up. Thank you people who just came in.
So sweet.
Okay. Did everyone get food okay? Everyone got a chair? Hi, welcome.
I'm gonna get more chairs.
Yeah,
Okay, get around. Thank you. Hi, welcome. Sit.
This is going to be finished around 2, but if you need to leave early, we are recording it, so we can email it to you. Okay, yeah, leave whenever you need. That's totally fine. Of course. Okay. So I think we're going to get started just because I know a few people have to leave a little early, and I just want to make sure we cover a few things. Does anyone have any questions before we get started formally? No? Okay. So I'm going to do the introductions a little later and just leaving time for people to come in. So we'll probably introduce ourselves in about 10 minutes. I just want to go over the main portion of the presentation. It'll take like 5-6 minutes before people have to leave, and then we'll get into some introductions and more group work. So just to give you an overview, we're just having a really fast presentation. Just to kind of go over a few things with the mentorship committee. We're mainly prepping you for the event tonight. So there's a document you're going to be asked to fill out tonight. So we want to give you some prep work on how to fill that out with your mentor. So that'll be, I'll be speaking a bit, Cindy will be speaking a bit, I'll introduce in a minute, and then Andy will be speaking for a bit. We're also going to do a quick model interaction. So me and Cindy might just sit down and show you kind of how you can start a conversation. We haven't practiced it, so we're just going to ad-lib it, but it's going to be great. Then we're going to do some introductions. Oh, sorry. Go back a sec. Some small group practice. And if you're online, I'm also going to create breakout rooms. So you will be able to practice. You'll just be doing it with a partner online. So you can still do that part. And then we're going to go over some resources, and we'll have Q&A with everyone still here. So if you have questions for Andy or Cindy or anyone after their presentation. Okay, so one thing we wanted to go over, you're going to be doing some goal setting tonight with mentors. That's going to be a big component of it. And something that people had expressed to us a lot when we were talking about it was that they weren't always sure what the etiquette was for setting goals. How much can you expect of your mentor? How much can you ask in terms of them helping you with your goals? How specific do you need to be? So we just wanted to give you a framework, and I'm going to leave this up when we're practicing later. So Natalie actually put this up, which is amazing. So SMART goals, specific. So we give examples like that. If you can have a time frame, that would be great. If you can have a place, an amount. So I'm going to network with 10 people by the end of April this year on LinkedIn. So giving really specific goals. And we're going to kind of script how you can do that. Measurable, so how will you know if you've hit your goals? And that might be your mentor might check in with you to say, have you met your goals? And you want to be able to say whether you have or not. So instead of just saying, I want to improve networking, if you say, I want to network with 10 people, then you can say, oh, here are 9 people I've spoken with. I need 1 more, but I'm almost at my goal. Accountable, kind of the same thing. So not only are you measuring for yourself, but hopefully you can use your mentor as someone who can keep you accountable. We're also possibly going to be set up some kind of mentee support group at some point. We might do like a WhatsApp group or something. So if you'd like to find a partner in the mentorship that you'd like to keep you accountable as another student, we can do that as well. Realistic, so grad school is really busy. Saying that I'm going to have a coffee chat with someone twice a week for the whole year might not be realistic. So just try to keep in mind when you're planning what you can actually do, and especially when you're setting your meeting times with your mentor, because you don't want to be scheduling things and then having to cancel them because you get too busy. So that's a big part. And then timetable. So something I'm not going to get into too much today, but we can talk about a bit later if you'd like, is calendar blocking. If you haven't done it, anything you set as part of this goal should be like a meeting you schedule with someone else. So what I always recommend is to put it in your calendar as a meeting to yourself. So from 9 to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, you're going to be on LinkedIn the whole time trying to make networking connections with other people. So that timetable just gives you the space to work on them. Any questions before we go on to what the goals will look like? Have people heard of SMART goals before? I know they've kind of been thrown around, yeah. So a few things you're going to fill out tonight. So this is going to be a worksheet on 3 things that you'd like to learn with your mentor. Everyone is obviously going to have very different goals. Some people want to do career exploration. Some people want to do more education exploration. Some people just want grad student kind of work-life balance tips. So think about what's really important for you, and we're going to do some brainstorming later. So if you're not sure, we'll help you think about things that might be important. Your mentor is also going to have goals. So one of their goals might be, I'd like to help you work on your confidence in networking, if that's something you want to work on. So not only should you be thinking about, there's lots of food. Not only should you be thinking about your goals, you should also be thinking about what goals can I help my mentor with to help me. So what would they be looking for? And maybe Cindy can speak to this a little in a minute too. And then there's what actions can you both take? So that's something we're going to talk about with the realistic. How can you tie actions to your goals? And the last part before I hand it over, so you're also going to set meetings. So this is something I want you to think about now, because if you're put on the spot later, it might be hard for you to all of a sudden work this out. So, and I do have lots of paper and pens in the middle if you need anything. So there's in-person, phone, or email. Think about really what works for you. If you're a commuter, maybe you need to do phone or email. So really look at your schedule. How often we'd like to meet. Again, I think it's better to not overbook yourself and then have to cancel a lot. So if you're not sure how much you're available, I would personally recommend setting fewer meetings, and then you can increase them as needed. And then, so there's this: if a text message, email, or voicemail is received, how early can we get back to each other? A lot of times you have to be a little flexible with this. A lot of your mentors are working full time, so saying get back to me in 6 hours might not be feasible, but you might be able to say within a couple days, at least by the end of the week, something like that. And then if you can't make a meeting, so again, because you don't want to waste their time, if you're sick, if something comes up, what's the best way to let them know? So when we do our little breakouts, we'll kind of go through this, but I just wanted you to start thinking about it. So now we have Cindy. Do you want me to introduce you? Do you want to introduce yourself? Oh, so we have Dr. Cindy Sinclair, who's amazing. If you haven't met her, she's so lovely. And she is the president of the Alumni Association this year and a mentor. So she'll have great tips, both in terms of, being involved in this program and the Alumni Association, but also how to be a mentor and how to set some of those goals. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Hi, everyone. Yeah. So 2007, I was a first timer at OISE, sitting in your chair, fall 2007. At that time, I was working at the University of Toronto, I was working in administration, and I counseled hundreds and hundreds of students for decades while I worked at the university. But when I came to OISE and I started my master's, I had no idea what I was going to do. All I know when I started my undergrad in 2005, or in 2000, that I wanted a better job at the university. I wanted to climb the ladder. And so I thought I'll do my BA. I did a BA in history and fine art history because I love history and love fine art. And that just carried me through. But once I finished, I got excited about where my original goal was. I wanted to work with the I wanted to advance. And so when I finished my BA, I realized the opportunities were there, but I became passionate about one area, and that was areas of immigrant medical doctors. I worked in the Department of Medicine for 20 years, so I've seen, or more than 20 years, so I've seen immigrant doctors coming into the program and the challenges they were facing. I've seen the administration how it worked. I saw the structure. So I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but in my master's, I decided I was going to do curriculum development, community learning, adult education, to sort of gain those skills. And so I did that in 2009. I graduated and I thought, well, that was really exciting. I really enjoyed research. Do I want to go and work in an office, or do I want to do something about it? And so I applied for the PhD and I got accepted, and I decided this is going to be fun. I am going to be working on really what my passion was, with immigrant doctors. Regarding taxis, what did I do? How can I help? And in my PhD, I decided I was working with my advisor, and she was really supportive of my work. So I started doing private studies, and I was also doing collaborative and workplace learning and social change. So I started doing private studies about what immigrants were facing in this situation here in Canada. And I organized a conference in Ghana with my professor. So I went to Ghana and I started networking. I organized a course in Italy, in Rome, at the University of Rome, with my professor, and we had a marvelous time. And I started networking and connecting with people and started broadening my focus for what I really wanted to do, but where I want to go. And things just started evolving. I went to Kenya just before I graduated in 2006 and I organized a personal conference. And again, the opportunities were just starting to flow, like people were coming to me and we just engaged in all kinds of conversations about education. And I thought this was great. So my original goal to work at the university, sort of in administration and higher administration, sort of gone on the back burner. I became very interested from working with my professors, my supervisors, and students, global education sector. And so as soon as I graduated in 2017, 10 years after I started my after I started OISE, I ended up in China, in Hong Kong. And I went straight to the Faculty of Medicine there because the dean of the Faculty of Medicine was one of my graduate students with residence in medicine. So I was straight there, and before you know it, we started making plans, and we established a program in rural China within months. So there goes my involvement. So I didn't have a mentor, but I was very open to what was happening. And I realized also, studying workplace learning and social change, that society is changing, workplaces are changing. You might say, I want to be something when I finish my degree, but by the time you graduate, that job might not be there anymore. If you want to be a director or something, that program might not be there. So what I did is I started looking more broadly as to what I can enjoy, what I can do to satisfy me. And that came my work with global education. And so like now I did some consulting work at U.S. University and British Faculty of Medicine in Hong Kong, and presently appointed by the Faculty of Medicine in Kenya to do some consulting work in Toronto. And so that's where my journey has taken me. But the thing I love about mentoring, I have 3 children, and they've all graduated, and they're different parts of the world, but they've all had higher degree. And the same thing with them. When they started off, they didn't know what they wanted to do. My oldest son wanted to be an actuary because that's where the money was. You can make a lot of money, and he decided he was going to do that. Then he thought, first he wanted to be computer science in computer, and he got into the computer science program, and it was boring. And he decided, I want to be an actuary. I want to make money when I graduate. So he became an actuary. And he started working as an actuary with the biggest firm in Toronto. And months later, he said, I don't want to do this. So, here I am with him, trying to navigate which direction he's going to go. Finally ended up in the master's program and then PhD in the US. And so I think he found his dream, and the same with my other 2. So that's my experience. I'm bringing my workplace experience from working with students and residents for a long, long time. And that was my successes, seeing students coming to the program, and graduating and getting jobs. Like I didn't want my kids sitting back home and live in my basement. And I have to spend for them at 1 or 2 degrees. So I sort of cherish and relish the moments with students, and when I see there's a passion and I think I can share or help. So I'm bringing in workplace experience, my own family experience, my own kids, their friends, and also my education and working broadly and globally. As a mentor, however, I find that as a mentor, your mentors, you're matched with the program, you're matched with a mentor. That person may not have the same interest, but it's a relationship that you will develop, you will sort of work with. As a mentor, I find that mentors are busy. They have their life, they have their social life, they have their childhood life, they have kids, family, so they're busy. But when a person says they want to be a mentor, they're really, how many minutes do I have? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When a person says they have a passion, they want to nurture, they want to put in someone something. And so your mentors are usually people who really are committed. And it's always a two-way street. Whatever you give, that's what you receive. But the overall thing is forming a relationship. Don't go in there thinking, this person is my mentor, these are my goals, this is what I want to do. Try and form that relationship. Invite them for a coffee. I love walking down the streets and just find a coffee shop and stop in for a coffee. I invited my mentees, let's go for a walk, and then we'll find a place in Yorkville or somewhere, stop and have a coffee. That you're developing that relationship. It is so important for mentees and for mentors to develop a relationship with their mentee and mentor. That's the most important thing. And once you have that relationship and you feel comfortable, it's like a PhD supervisor. If you're not comfortable with the supervisor, you'll never finish your dissertation. You must be comfortable with the PhD supervisor,
no, it's so true.
or else you'll never finish.
Yeah.
So same with your mentor. You must feel that you can speak freely. You can talk about issues that you're interested in. You can ask them questions. You don't have to get too personal. They won't normally get too personal because there should be some safe barriers. But once you have that relationship, everything else just organically flow and makes that relationship most beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
So for tips for a mentor, success brings success, and it's a two-way street. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, we have two amazing guests today, so I'm going to turn the camera off if that's okay. Would you like me to introduce you? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, I can just I'll do it.
Sure.
So hi everybody, my name is Andy, and I actually work right now at OISE. I work in the office of the registrar and services. My job title is International Recruitment and Success Coordinator. So basically, my job encompasses two parts. First is doing recruitment for OISE, especially recruiting international students to study here. And second is to participate in programs like this to ensure success for international students. And I myself am actually also an OISE alum. I graduated from OISE about 3 years ago with my Master of Education in Language and Literature. And yeah, it's just a great honor to be back at OISE to continue being a part of this great community. So I have never been a part of this mentorship program myself before. I was like a mentee or a mentor, but I always wanted to become part of it. So when I saw application for this year, I thought, okay, let's not procrastinate. Let's proceed that application, and that's what I did. I joined this program this year because in my official position here at OISE, I work a lot with international students. And they have a lot of questions for me, for the office, for everybody. And international students, as you all know, they are particularly I guess more difficult situation because not only they have to worry about their school, worry about their social life, they also a lot of them also concerned with immigration issues after they graduate. And so for me, I just want to be able to provide information to students, to mentees, and also just to be of a resource. So there are questions that I do not know the answer for, but I know where to go to find those answers. What I see myself as a mentor is to just to know all the places on this campus. So when people come to me with questions, I know where to direct them, to send them to the right place. And another important thing for me to being a mentor is sometimes it's just comforting that you have somebody that you can rely on. It's comforting to know that there's somebody that you can approach. Honestly, although we tell students that if you have a question, come to the 8th floor, come to the OR, come to the office of the registrar, come to talk to the staff. But I think there's always a wall between a student and a staff member. Students, especially international students, because of the cultural background, they see staff member as a person of an authority figure. So that makes them very reluctant to approach staff member. Because they just do not like to deal with authorities. And but if you're a mentor, suddenly your status changes. You are no longer a staff member. You are a friend. People feel more comfortable to approach you with questions. And also, honestly, there are information that I'm not allowed to share as a staff member due to all the bureaucratic reasons. But as a mentor, as an equal, there is information that I'm allowed to share, that I'm allowed to disclose. So I hope that in this position as a mentor, I'm able to more often assistance to my mentees to students to give them a good experience with OISE. After all, students pay a lot of money to study, and we got to make sure that they receive the equal services. Otherwise, it's not good for OISE.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. So we're going to have a question and answer period at the end, and Cindy and Andy will both be here. So if you have questions, they're going to be around, I think. Are you both able to stay until the end? Does anyone have any questions they want to get out of the way now, though? Just don't want anyone to forget if they have a burning question. Okay, so far? Okay.
I have a question. How many meetings are mentors and mentees? Is there a limited number of 4? I think I heard 4.
No, I think the minimum is 4
minimum is 4,
suggested,
okay.
but there's no maximum.
Yeah.
And that could be over phone or email. It doesn't have to be, I think. Am I right in that? Yeah. So there's just 2 more people I want to introduce you to very quickly. I don't know, do you want me to introduce you to? Okay, I never know what people do.
Hi everyone, I'm Sim. I'm the Director of Advancement and External Relations, and I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to welcome you to the OISE Mentorship Program. We have 100,000 alumni worldwide. You met our president earlier, and he's also a proud alum, and so is Diana. Our goal is to make your OISE journey a success. Through mentorship is one of those key stepping stones. So we have a great lineup of mentors who are willing to give their time, talent, and expertise, and you've been personally matched. So we look forward to continuing this journey with you. If you're on the floor, if you have any questions, not just for mentorship, but for alumni, we have a job board partner, so if you're looking for career opportunities, volunteer opportunities. Dan also runs a student advisory committee, so and some of the volunteer work gets directly noted on your co-curricular record. So we are your source for news, events, and services. And yes, we are your friends, not that authoritative.
Thanks, Sam. That's so lovely. And then we also have Natalie, who I know is being fly on the wall, but are you okay if I introduce you quickly?
I'm also one of the program coordinators for this. So, OISE got mentorship at UConn and probably so we're here to help all year, and we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be really fun, packed event, lots of great food and lots of chance to mingle with different students and alumni participating, as well as hopefully match. Stay in touch. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions as we go or concerns, whatever.
Great, thanks so much. Yes, we're pointing the camera at people. Okay, so the second half of this, we really wanted to make interactive to see what kind of questions come up for you, and especially because we're doing etiquette and intros, a big part of that is practicing etiquette and intros. So what we're going to do, actually we might come back to this if that's okay, just because I'm aware of time. So one of the things we want to go over is introductions, and partially because not only will you be being your mentor, but there will be lots of other people around tonight, right? So you want to have a short introduction that you can give to people who aren't your mentor if you want to say hi quickly. So if you haven't done an elevator pitch before, we want to talk about that quickly. If you have, I'll keep it brief. And then we're going to practice that as well as some etiquette questions. So I just put up an example so you can see. I tend to say for short introductions, you don't want to be more than 3 sentences. So I tend to say, hi, my name is Diana Burchell. I did not say that at the beginning, I realized, so my apologies. And as Sim said, I'm chair of the Student Advisory Committee this year, so you get lots of emails from me. And then when I'm talking to other people, I tend to say, well, I'm trained as a French and special education teacher. I'm currently pursuing my PhD in developmental psychology. I'm currently researching new assessment and intervention methods for trilingual students in French immersion. So that's kind of, I have one sentence introducing myself, I have one kind of setting my background, and then I have one saying what I'm currently doing. So that gives people an idea of who I am, but also where I'm going. So what I'd like us to do, as long as everyone's okay, is just to practice quickly in a small group. What we had thought when we brainstormed this is that we'd have 3 people. So we'll have one person who's kind of role-playing the mentee, one person who's role-playing the mentor, and then we'd like one person to sit as an observer and watch what the interaction looks like and see if you can pick up on any tips, and then we're going to switch. So if we can do groups of 3, so maybe 1, 2, 3, sitting in the back, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Maybe that'll be a group of 4. We'll figure that one out. If that wasn't clear, you can kind of arrange yourselves, but if, I know, teacher in me is cringing right now. So if we can do kind of groups of 3, we're gonna give you about 10 minutes. So I'm gonna say 3 minutes per mentee practicing. So one person will go first, just give a brief introduction. If you have any questions, you can kind of poll your group. You can say, I'm thinking about asking this, like, do you have any tips for me? Is that an appropriate question to ask? And then we'll come back as a big group. Any questions about any of that? No. Okay, so I'm going to let you do that. We're also going to be walking around, so if you have questions, we'll answer them. And for those of you online, I'm going to set you up in breakout groups, hopefully. Thanks. Oh, it was here before. What did they? Oh, breakout rooms. Okay, so if you're online, I just assigned you to a breakout room. So if you could join that room, and if you have any questions, just message me in the chat, and I'll try to if I can. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking Kathy Coe, because she's such a prominent.
Kathy's been on a lot of stuff lately.
Yeah. She's lobbying the government. Yeah. Love it.
I'm
Did you get new glasses?
Yeah, I did.
They're very pretty.
Thank you.
Okay, could we all return back to the table whenever we're wrapping up? Okay, can everyone see the screen okay? Yeah, for the most part. Sorry guys, I just don't want to run a ton over. Yes, I will, yeah. So just so nobody panics, I am going to send you this PowerPoint so you don't have to copy out all the links, I promise. I think we have a record of everyone, or should I get everyone to write down their emails? Okay. If there's anyone here who didn't register, maybe come up and give me your email at the end, just because you wouldn't be in the email list. But if you registered, we'll send out an email. So there are a few things here. These are just tips from a few. There's some business organizations. There's the American Psychological Organization. There's a TED Talk. And they all just kind of go over tips for mentees. It's a lot of what we've gone over today, but if you're still a little anxious about meeting your mentor, you want to talk about what would be helpful as a mentee, these are all great resources. A few that Natalie listed that were great. So there's Career Start at U of T, if you didn't know. So I think this kind of goes through some proposed stages and kind of leads you through step by step. There's also Ask Me, which I believe you can like ask questions to people in career services. And there is, if you don't know, career services is in the Koffler building. It's at St. Georgian College. And there's people down there all the time. So if you have questions, you can walk in and there's reception and they can try to redirect you. A few other resources that they had. So Career Navigator, I don't think there's one for education, but there are some for like, say, psychology or like languages, or you might just have to get really specific about what you're looking for. The Career Learning Network, this is CLNX. If you haven't been on it, it has tons of job postings, volunteer postings. I think the CCR stuff is on there as well. So if you want like co-curricular record, things like the Student Advisory Committee show up there. 10,000 Coffees, if you don't know about, is like LinkedIn, but it's only for U of T or OISE? U of T?
Right now, but we're thinking of getting 25.
Oh, great. Maybe OISE, but yeah, for U of T right now. So even if you want to meet mentors from different departments, right? There are some different departments at OISE that might overlap with what you're looking for. And 10,000 Coffees will actually suggest people to you every month. So they'll send you an email and say, this person really matches what you're looking for. Do you want to meet with them? I think Natalie and I at one point got suggested to each other and we were like, hey, let's get a coffee. So it does do a very good job of matching you with people. And there's an online career chat, which is a great option if you're not at U of T a lot. You could do the online option and talk through some career options. I've personally done quite a few workshops down at Career Services, and they are very well done. So that's a great resource to look into. I think that's most of them. So again, I'm going to be sending this out if you didn't get it all down. But I did just want to give you an opportunity in the last couple minutes, because we have Andy here. If you have questions about international students specifically, we have Cindy here and Sim and Natalie. So I was wondering if anyone has questions, anything you want to discuss about how you should approach your mentor, anything that came up when you were discussing in small groups that you thought might be good to discuss.
I'd just like to add to that career list,
Yeah.
Park House.
Yes.
Yeah, because as students, you pay from your incidental fees, a portion of your fees goes to Park House, which is a big building down in the central campus. And they offer all kinds of activities, from exercise, debate club, archery, all kinds of social activities as well. And you're welcome to go and just hang out there, sit around and meet people. They have a beautiful library, which is, you can't borrow books, but you can just sit there and read, overlooking the campus. It's just beautiful. So tap into those resources as well. It's just fantastic.
I think that's a good point. Just tap into the greater U of T resources. There's so many spaces on campus that are fantastic, and we tend to isolate ourselves at OISE. And even things like the Graduate Student Writing Center, the GCAC, they do fantastic writing workshops. Like there's so many resources we don't really talk about at OISE as much. So yeah, they're great. Yes. Did you do it with Jane Freeman?
Yeah.
Did she do
She's
it?
amazing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, she's the best person to know. Yeah. And she'll do one-on-one meetings as well. If you've taken a course with her, she'll meet with you and go over a piece of writing you have, which is super helpful. If you want like targeted, no-nonsense advice, she's the best person. She ripped one of mine to shreds in the best way. It was very, very helpful. So yes, yes. Yeah. She's great. Yeah. So I think we're about at 2 o'clock, and I don't want to keep you much later. SGS. Yeah, there is 63 St. George Street is School of Graduate Studies office. And again, there's always people there. They've got lots of resources. They've got entire tables of pamphlets for resources. So if you don't know what's out there, you can just go and take all the pamphlets. And they're great. Yeah. And there's things like the Center for International Experience. There's lots of pamphlets in there.
And they do offer workshops on immigration issues, how to apply for work visa, how to apply for immigration, how to apply for SIM card, for SIM member. So yeah, again, great resources, and you are paying for them. So if you don't use it, you use any of them, the university will be very happy. Yeah, but your money won't be wasted.
And then once you graduate, you really have no access to these resources. So do as much as you can while you're a student. All you need is your student ID number. And go to any faculty. If you're interested in law, if you're interested in criminology, just walk into the office, look at their bulletin boards, see what they're offering. There might be a seminar that you might be interested in. And it's not a good way to connect and network. So if you're interested in a seminar and you go and you speak to the speaker or someone else around, you're building your network. Eventually, you get to know more people around, and you get to hear about what's going on in different faculty, different parts of the university. Also, the job area as well, because the more you know of different background areas, the more you can tailor the remainder of your courses. Say, for example, if you go to criminology and you want, there's a case that you want to follow up or a policy issue, you can take your next course with one of those professors as long as you have approval from your department to tap into that professor's course, and that's where you're getting the education that you need, the opportunity to network and to build a different career pathway. You never know where that will lead. So just take advantage, go to every single faculty you can, check out their resources, and don't hesitate to tap into them.
And the one thing I wanted to add, just so you know, if you're doing the career workshops, I believe you can do them up to 2 years after you graduate. So if you're graduating soon, I think you can take advantage of them even after you graduate, but it's a time limited period. So if you're graduating soon, you would want to do them, yeah, pretty soon after. Yeah, at least from what I understand. You might want to triple check.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, because I think the continuing education you can. But,
If it's 2 years within graduation, you still have access for the reasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we're going to formally wrap up, but a bunch of us are going to try to stick around just for a couple minutes. So if you have questions, please come up and ask us. I'm going to leave up my contact information. So even if you have a question, you can email me and I'll redirect you if there's someone you wanted to talk to. So yeah, we're around and we're available. So, and please take food on the way out. Thank you. Thanks for coming. It was so nice to have you guys here. Helps so much.
Excellent.
Sorry, my
So last year we had me, Peter, and then. So do you want to change that?
No, we'll just do. So we'll do what we were saying. So you introduce
Peter first.
We'll do Glenn.
Okay.
And then Glenn introduces Peter.
Because Glenn's doing thank you. So thank you to the community.
That's okay. I mean, it's short.
Yeah.
Just say,
Is that okay?
I think it should be you. Glenn acknowledgement, introduce Glenn, remarks and thank yous. Glenn introduces Peter.
Okay.
You can just say, and now you'll hear from the chair. Peter, I'm doing this notes now, and then back to you with bulk instructions and presenting dinner. Yeah. And then dinner is after you speak, and then at the very end, you and I will do the wrap up together.
And what's playing on the slideshow?
I don't have anything except for the background slide.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then some jazz.
If I have time, I'm not doing the music, but
Serena can play Spotify.
okay. If we have time, I can do photo collages, but I might not have time.
You might not have to.
Yeah.
But then always
Yeah.
So is everyone coming at the event tonight?
Yeah.
We need all of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was trying to.
I'll say I just thought of email. I'm going to have to look at them.
Are you hosting that?
Oh no, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Actually, this time we'll do something that is actually directly for down directly to students. Not that as fair, we have but yeah, this is EU university. So yeah, I'm really that going there for conference. So 27. I will. Definitely. Oh yeah. Actually, yeah.
Like a lot of issues, but
Is there anything special Peter should talk about besides like numbers and countries and nations? Anything extra that needs to say? Yeah.
Our talented mentors, different fields, right? You got that right?
No stats that I'm missing, right? Like
No. I wouldn't do many stats. Just the total number of.
yes, I have that. Yes. Okay.
That's it.
So I think Serena curious.
Serena texted us. I think she needs us downstairs.
Okay. Okay. I'll be down right now.
And I just thought it's like, so I'll see you tonight. I will go back on the but look forward to it. Thank you.
See ya.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, this is, well, this is your range. It's really, really good because it's responding. Actually taking it happen. It's fantastic. Really
Sorry, if I can interrupt you for 2 seconds, just before you leave. We're running a workshop next week, and I forgot to ask you, we haven't firmly decided on a topic yet. So if you know of something you'd like us to talk about, we've had things like, if you want to talk about interviews, resume, cover letters, how to network on LinkedIn, whatever would be useful, just let us know on the way out and we'll write it down. Just because we want to make sure it's useful for you. So let us know what you think would be useful. Sorry, I'll let you get back to conversations now. Is there anything in public tonight? I think I'm supposed to be only in public with registration. So I think I'm getting there somewhere around 3:45.
It would be great if you can focus on that, and then at 6 p.m. at 2 hours to make sure people I think just some people are going to not like that, but I really try to achieve. Hopefully people know. Okay, my magic. There might be confused.
If I have like by themselves, can I join them?
Yes, please. I would encourage that. Like it's either the facilitator can chat or bring them into another group, which requires talking to the table. So feel very human around this department because right now we want to know exactly.
Yeah, well, I think that we're stable.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm a first student.
The way the tables are, it's like 6 people.
It's good being more. I think that surprise.
Yeah, that was her issue last year. I did have one case today. I meant to just dropped in. So I have to let that mentor know next year. This is serious. No, it is so bad.
Yeah, do you know what's frustrating? Because I'm thinking like maybe sit down with them and like I can get a facilitating or like
that would be excellent. I think they are. Well, I know that they're like ELP students.
yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks for talking with me. Yeah, but some of you see about just kind of because I'm part time. Like at the moment, time to go and it was confusing at first because you're getting all these emails and then I say, oh yes, I'll go to that one. Where was taken a while, it's taken a while for everyone to once you do it's really good. And then you have to like narrow it down because you accept it as too much and you're like guilty because you're sending all these like really sorry. Life's not real. Yeah, no, it's true. And in September you're always optimistic and then October hits and you're like, I've got to just focus a little bit. But you still do want to thread in nice and stuff. So that I think that's the sort of right incentive here. It is. Yeah. Yes, and maybe it's yeah, I think everything starts trying once, right? Yeah, exactly. You learn something. Yeah. And I'm kind of I know this is weird, but I gave something that I was learning just come to school so that they can teach us more than yeah, I really want you to use those exercises. No, but usually lots of people return the penny so they just questions. It's slightly at the tangent. That's sometimes where you put the X-ray. Oh, I don't know that. Oh, really? Maybe it's like the
Did you say Santa Fe? I kept saying Nevada around. Super friendly. Because we're having international range. And I was Yes. It's nice to meet you guys. Yeah, I guess I'll see the same membership. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Okay. So see you next time. It was a so cheap.
So nice you kept the room for longer because it seems like people really.
Yeah, that's what we have until 3. So.
Sorry guys, I haven't been watching the chat. we're going to end the session here unless anyone else has any questions. If you do, please feel free to email me and I'll try to redirect you.
So far,